Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? So, as I'm sure you're all aware, Justice Kennedy retired from the Supreme Court, and that gives Donald Trump another seat to fill. If there was any justice in this universe, he would have to fill it with, Obama's nominee that got blocked. But that's not going to happen, right? Because there is no justice in the world. So in the meantime, we have to deal with the reality. And the reality is that a lot of very fucked up decisions are going to come out of the Supreme Court that's now going to be stacked with a 5-4 conservative majority. Get ready for things like net neutrality to be permanently banned, right? Get ready for things like, tax cuts to be like, ingrained into the Constitution, right? I'm not kidding. Stuff like Citizens United is going to be upheld, right? And those are just the consequences of what happens when Republicans are in charge, right? Things are about to get really, really shitty. But one thing I'm not afraid of them overturning is Roe versus Wade, right? Abortion. I don't think that it's really going to get overturned because I don't think the conservatives actually want it to be overturned, right? And if it does, I think there's going to be a serious backlash, and the conservatives know that. So, because here's the thing, right? Normal conservatives, normal, ordinary, fiscal, God-loving, country, gun-loving, conservatives don't give a shit about abortion, right? Not really. They don't really care, right? The super racist ones, the alt-right, they don't give a fuck either, right? They don't care because most of the people who get abortions are minorities. Really, the only people who really give any shit about abortion are the values voters, the evangelical Christians, the people that go out and they have one issue, and this is the only issue they vote on, and they vote on abortion. And that's why they vote Republican, because they think Democrats are like, always baby fucking killers and shit. Right. But here's the thing, right? Those people are declining massively in this country, right? And I don't need to really cite any stats there. Just look it up. Every year the reported number of evangelical Christians are shrinking, right? The reported number of people who have any religious affiliation are shrinking. Okay, so each year that goes by, those people, their influence wanes lower and lower and lower. And it's really only a matter of time before it's gone, right? But something else that's really funny is that if you look at the actual stats of who, the religious affiliation of women who get abortions, it turns out that the majority of them are actually Christians, right? They're religious people. 24% are Catholic of abortion patients, right? Reported themselves as Catholic. It's like, who's like, a bigger opponent of fucking abortion than Catholics, right? 17% were mainline Protestant, okay? 13% were evangelical Protestant, right? Those are like the really, really, really vocal people. The people like focus on the family, right? The 700 Club, all of those preachers and shit you hear on the radio and on TV at like, in the middle of the day asking you to put your hands on the screen and like fucking, donate your life savings to them. Right. Those are the evangelical Christians. Those people do a lot of organizing against abortion, right? And 13% of the patients are evangelical Christians. You would think that if they wanted to reduce abortion, they would just stop getting them, right? And immediately it would go down by 13%. Of the rest, 8% have some other religion. And of those 8%, 1% are Jewish. So it's like, and I find that shit really funny because there's a stereotype among the right wing in this country that, Jewish people are like, so liberal that they're commies, right? That, the evil Jews are taking over the country with their communism and shit. They're the ones who are getting the least amount of abortions out of anybody it's unreal. You know, it's like, well, maybe it's because the stereotype is complete bullshit, right? You know, but that's really interesting. The remaining 38% had no religious affiliation. So it's like, okay, the big evil, you know, murdering, fucking baby-eating atheists are actually the group that gets the lowest amount of abortions in the country. It's fucking ridiculous. And so if you look at a little deeper, you kind of see that the reason it's because it's concentrated by wealth, right? Basically, 39% of the people getting abortions were white, 28% were black, 25% Hispanic, 6% Asian, 3 were other, right? And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. And it's because of those people, that racial breakdown I just mentioned, 49% of the patients live at or below the federal poverty line, right? And so that's kind of like, it's like basically the more poor you are, right, the more likely you are to get an abortion. Okay, that's how it works out. And it just so happens that, you know, all the poor people in the country live in the South. Right. Now, if you look at the actual numbers per state, right, the liberal states with the high populations, of course, get the majority of abortions. It's because there's the most people in those states. California, New York, right? Surprisingly, the state that gets the most is Delaware, right? Which they don't have the highest, you know, income or anything. They're just probably the most liberal. But if you look at, you know, other states are pretty high up on that list too of actual raw numbers of abortions. Texas, Louisiana, North Carolina, you know. And really the only reason why you don't see a lot more abortions in southern states is because they've put so many restrictions on them. So women are going to neighboring states, right, to get abortions. And I'd like to look in to see how many abandoned children and how many children are put into foster care and stuff in those states. But I didn't have time this morning. And that might be interesting, but I suspect it's really high in those states that have, you know, I suspect it's the instances of illegal abortions, of women going to other states to get abortions, of, you know, that kind of thing is really high in those states. But there really isn't much in the way of stats to actually prove that. So that's just a theory of mine. I'm not going to say that's actually true. But it just basically tells me, looking at the actual facts, tells me that if it were to happen, if they were to actually go and outlaw abortion, the majority of the country would lose their fucking mind. There would be a major backlash against the Republicans, right? Because it's just looking at the raw numbers. They don't have the same amount of numbers that they had 20 years ago, you know, 15 years ago even, right, to support abortion. It's like fewer and fewer people, right, are fitting into that demographic that traditionally supports abortion. And of those people in that demographic, a large number of them are actually getting abortions. So it's like, it's basically just something that the political arm of the evangelical church uses to get money, right? And I really think that it's going to be, you know, if they try to do it, it's going to be like Obamacare. If you remember, the Republicans and the conservatives tried to outlaw Obamacare, right? And, you know, 60 times while Obama was president. And every time, you know, Obama, of course, would veto it, right? And the minute that they got into power, you know, they got all 3 branches of government, the Republicans, they didn't have anything. They didn't repeal it, right? They couldn't do it. And it was because the whole time it was bullshit. It was window dressing. It was fucking, you know, kabuki theater. They were using it to rile up their base and to get donations. And I really, really think that abortion is another one of those issues. You know, they use it to rile up their base. They use it to get money. But when the shit comes down to it, they're not going. You know, they don't actually want to reverse it because too many of their people support it, right? So I don't know. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm not wrong. it would really suck to have that, be an issue again where, because the thing is, if they reverse Roe versus Wade, something like 20 states in the country, they have like these laws, they call them trigger laws, that the minute that Roe versus Wade gets reversed, like those laws go into effect and abortion is banned in those states. Most of them in the South. There'll basically be a large area of the country where you can't even get one, and you'll have to go north or whatever. And, I really don't want to see that happen. A lot of women are going to have their lives ruined if that happens, right? It's going to cause some serious fucking problems. And I think, though, that, the Republicans are aware of that. And they're really not going to do it. And if they do it, they'll do it in some half-assed way that allows loopholes or something. Even that, I hope that doesn't happen. But still, this is just a feeling I'm getting. I could be completely wrong, but, I hope I'm not. And, but I do think that if they do it, the backlash is going to be massive. And it's going to fucking destroy them, the Republican Party. They already know, they're kind of already, like, shitting their pants waiting for this next election, And this is just going to be one more fucking thing that's going to push people to the polls and ruin those assholes. So, anyway, that's all I got. Adios, folks.